That's why during this time of tribulation, everybody's worried about the political scene. What are we busy doing? Trying to learn boots on the ground. And if you ain't learned it, you need to learn. That's a new dance out, Terrence. You look a little. I'm sorry. That's
I know
Terrence is over here.
I just don't got a fan right now.
On the ground. We are busy learning the line dances because that is
it's a country line dance.
It's a country line dance. And it's not just boots on the ground. There are many others that we're busy trying to learn right now because we have found our ways of coping in the midst of struggle. Because what do we know? We know we're going to struggle, right? It goes back to our ancestors. There's going to be some struggle in everything, whether we're talking about enslavement, civil rights movement, or whatever. We know that there's struggle. But as a people, one of the greatest things about us is we use humor. We use laughter, dancing, things of that nature to bring us joy. And those are also the things that help us with our resiliency. We can pray. Yes, we pray. We praise and worship. We do all those things. We line dance, but that's a part of the community. When you're in church and the drums start playing, right? Somebody's about to get up and shout and dance like they've never danced before. They dance for the Lord. Am I correct?
You are right.
So don't look down on somebody because they say they're trying to learn the latest line dance. They may not know how to praise and they may not know how to shout, but they know those steps to boots on the ground. And so that's what they're going to do. That's their coping, right? Thank you. All of that is a part of the resilience. Now, going back to the statement that Hannah made, that leaders in ministry are
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speaking with Gravity. My name is Joshua Williams.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Hannah.
What up, Terrence Dawkins?
And it's another great episode, another great day with Speaking with Gravity, and we have another great host. But we'll let her introduce. Herself. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, doctor.
Tell us your name, a little bit about you, the great work that you're doing out here. We want to know it all.
Wonderful. Thank you all for allowing me to be here with you today. I am Dr. Makisha Bates. I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner by trade and career. I'm a retired from the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps, so I'm a retired officer. I'm the owner of Gift of Dreams Wellness and Consulting that's located nationally at this point in time, and I'm also an ordained minister. I minister at Central Baptist Church of Camp Springs, Maryland, but I bring all of my work to South Carolina, where I'm also a community pastor with the Faith Initiative to End Child Poverty.
Awesome. Wow, that's a handful, right?
That is a handful.
And I'm all for it.
That's why you had me introduce myself.
That's
so
right.
I appreciate it.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
I would not have been able to do a service. I don't believe.
That is incredible work
It's a
that
joy
you're
to be.
doing.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us about Gift of Dreams Consulting?
Sure. So Gift of Dreams Wellness and Consulting was actually started up in 2015 when I was still in the uniformed services. It is an opportunity for me to actually do my clinical work, be able to see clients along with being able to do what I love to do, which is being out in the community and telling others about mental health. So it started with Gift of Dreams Wellness and Consulting. And so the consulting portion led to me being invited to do things such as this, being invited to different churches, especially after I was ordained. I did my master's work in divinity at Virginia Union University, the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology, I must say. And while there, I was able to learn that there was a gap with mental health and our pastors, our ministers, and what's being offered to them. And with that gap, I saw the need to be able to fill it. And so starting with there at school, being able to talk to them about mental health, being able to talk to them about what are their thoughts, what are their feelings, and things of that nature, and how do we bring mental health to the forefront in our churches. So that's where that got started.
Awesome work. If I could just ask you really quickly, should I go ahead and say the topic?
You tend to forget that.
Yeah. Hannah
okay.
will remind me. I'm going to say the topic real quick, then I have a quick question for you, okay?
Sure.
So our topic for today, the reason that Dr. Makisha Bates is with us today is to join us in a discussion around mental health strategies for spiritual leaders and congregations.
Yes.
Very big. And as you can see, she's well qualified to help us out in this discussion.
That's
right.
right.
What I wanted to know was, what does the gap that you mentioned, what does that gap look like? Or, what have you seen?
So I've seen quite a few things. So when we are talking about the church, and when I say church, I'm specifically speaking of the Black church.
Okay.
That is what I have knowledge about, specifically the Baptist church when I say the Black church. So the Black Baptist church, I come from that world. And we have... I don't want to say theologians because I don't want to lead us down that road, but you have ministers, you have pastors who may not have been trained or received formal education themselves. So they may not have the services, the opportunity to learn about mental health in the way that I've been trained about it, to be able to do those clinical hours and be able to see patients, right? So they've never seen patients. So when they're offering counseling, it's more from a spiritual perspective. It's more from a biblical perspective, which is very different from a clinical provider, licensed clinical social worker, psychiatric nurse practitioner, psychiatrist, psychologist, things of that nature. So there was a complete gap in there. And then making sure, you hear about the wounded healer, those who have been wounded themselves, who are standing in pulpits and offering information to others. And so who's helping them? How are we dealing with that? Where do they go when they need someone to speak to? And so that was another gap that I saw. And so being in seminary, I had the great opportunity to actually learn from them while I was able to teach them about some of the things that I had already experienced. And I will say, in seminary, you do get a very informal training about the clinical aspect of some of the stuff, but it's not to the depth of someone who has actually gone to school for just that.
Define seminary for us, for guests that.
Okay, seminary. Seminary is, when I say the word, I always think about the joke that many seminarians say, but seminary is where you go to receive formal education regarding the Bible. So as biblical teachings, it gives you the theological perspective of many things. So you learn how to preach, you learn how to read the Bible, you learn how to take the words that are in the Bible and dissect that. You learn how, not just how to preach, but the preparation of a sermon. And there are many other things that you do there too, but that's the tip of the iceberg.
Awesome.
Wow. Well, I'm excited for today's episode. I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to share. And just you listing your credentials, I know that you, Kervin did a great job of picking such an experienced person for this topic. So I'm super excited.
Well, can I actually give you my credentials? I mean, I told you some of the things that I do, but I just want to share those credentials because I just want to let everyone know the perspective that I'm truly coming from.
Yes.
So I said I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So I have been trained as a nurse. That is my background. I received my master's in nursing, which with the focus in psychiatric nurse practitioner. As a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I also have a public health degree in health policy and administration. My doctorate itself is in nursing, so I have a doctorate of nursing practice, and that is in clinical leadership. And then I also have my master's in divinity. So that's the credentials behind my name.
And it sounds like right now you have found your perfect niche for all of your passions to interact. And I'm looking for a different word, but for all of your passions to interact with each other for one purpose.
I thank the Lord because it was taking everything that has been given to me and then saying, because when I decided to go to seminary, I was like, okay, so I need to forget all this health stuff that I know. I need to forget all this psychiatric mental health stuff that I know. And it was actually one of my professors who said, no, you don't leave that behind. That is a part of your training, and that is what will be used to be able to help others. So I call it finding the intersection of
that's the word I was
health.
looking for.
Yeah. And so that actually leads to something that I'm working on. I have a book that I'm working on called No Shame, Bridging the Gap Between Mental Health and the Black Church. And so I'm looking to finish that up in the early spring, and hopefully that will be out by summer.
Well, I look forward to supporting that endeavor. And that is the exact word I was looking for, intersectionality, and how, especially us as Black women, we're taught that we can only fulfill one identity. But you have layered all those identity and all of that expertise and knowledge on top of each other to create this version that, we're so blessed to have here on Speaking with Gravity.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you once again for being with us today. One thing that we do at the beginning of our episodes, let's see, we have introduced the topic, but one thing that we do Dr. Bates is Mr. Terrence Dawkins. I know you're familiar with him. He gives us our he lets us know what the people want to know.
Yes.
And so at the beginning of the episode, we always hand it off to him, and I think he has a very interesting question that people want to know today.
All right. The people want to know, why is religion and spirituality important in healthcare?
Wow, that's a great question. Why is religion and spirituality important in healthcare?
Now, do y'all think when it says healthcare, is it talking about the industry of healthcare, you think, or do y'all think? I'm just wondering. Like, I don't know.
It can be however you interpret it. Really, I think.
Or like care for yourself. Yeah.
No, however you want to answer it. If you want to talk about in the healthcare system, if you want to talk about just like personal health care, you can answer it that way. Or matter of fact, let's spice it up. Can you answer both?
Oh, challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So why is religion and spirituality important? First of all, we need to understand, and you sort of touched on it when you talked about me taking everything that I am and bringing it in for this to be this one person. Mm-hmm. We are all multifaceted people, right? So we have the physical side of ourselves. We have the social side of ourselves. We have a spiritual side of ourselves, right? We have that financial side of ourselves. So when we're thinking about all the facets that make us as people, as human beings, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if you went to a provider who was able to, in recognizing what is going on with you, touched on all of that? I will say in my training, I know that one of the things that it was touched on was spirituality, meaning making sure you understand. You ask the question, what religion are you? Mm-hmm. Are you spiritual? Those are typical questions when you walk into any doctor's office or provider's office. Those are the things that you're asked about. They want to know who you are as a person. So in finding out everything about you, along with getting your vitals and knowing your blood pressure and those important numbers, they want to know, who are you? So if you have that prayer life, if you have that community through your church, that's important. It is. And so when we're talking about religion, we're actually talking about the more organized church, right? Do you go to church? Do you have a church family? Are you involved in the ministry? Things of that nature. But when we start talking about spirituality, I feel like I leave you out when I try to say when we start talking about spirituality, well, do you believe in a higher being? How do you find that settled place within yourself? Is it that you go and be a part of nature? Are you are you a water person where you just need to sit next to some water and feel the calmness of that helps you to be able to center yourself? So what was the original question? I'm sorry, I did all this talking.
No, you're actually you're on track.
You are.
You're on track. Why is religion and spirituality important in healthcare?
Right.
Whether that is like the healthcare industry or healthcare for like personal healthcare.
Right. So, and also along with them finding out who you are, it helps them to know, just like they need to know you as a person, you need to know your provider as a person. So if there is any bias, they need to be aware of that within themselves. And it also helps you to say, oh, no, I don't think I want this person right here touching on me, right? When you walk as a Christian, I know when people ask me to pray for them when they're going for surgeries and stuff, I don't just pray for the person. I pray for every hand that will touch them, whether that's nursing, whether that's the provider themselves, the surgeons, the people that will be preparing the food. Everyone, even down to those who are cleaning the sheets and stuff, because you want to know the energy that is touching your body and you're thinking about your healing process. You want to make sure that everyone that comes into contact with you is also being prayed about. And when the angels are watching over you, you want those angels to be some people who come in with God working with them. Right.
And I appreciate what you said. My take on the question is that one of the reasons why I feel like religion and spirituality is so important when we talk about healthcare is because it impacts our coping mechanisms and how we cope with the stressors or the trauma of life.
Yeah.
If we are in tune with our spirituality, or if we are a part of a church family, that can be a form of stress relief for some individuals, compared to individuals that may not have church community. They may find that sense of peace or unity in other places of their life. So I know that when it comes to mental health, having healthy coping mechanisms is so important. And so I feel like your identity of your religion and spirituality directly plays a key role in that.
Definitely. And I was going to say that, if they're a person that prescribes to, a particular religion or spirituality, I think that's a part of them. So it's important for individuals that are dealing with mental health and that are dealing with the care of an individual to know that sometimes you can, there are boundaries sometimes that comes with a particular religion or spirituality, or there are customs and things that you don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that. So I think it's important. Another thing, I just in general think that there are concepts and things that we can, when practiced, that can be healthy, that can be good for our well-being. I'm actually I'm reading a book right now called Management by Proverbs, and it's helpful for me in being a leader and being in leadership. And that's not really speaking to my mental health there, but just saying that there are concepts that this book has taken from the Bible and kind of said how they play into you being in leadership. So I think there are a lot of things that can be translated from religions and from spirituality over into our healthcare. So I appreciate the input has been great on this question. We have a really exciting QD for the hour as well. I think some statistics that I'm pretty interested to hear about. So yeah, Miss Hannah.
Yep. So relating to mental health strategies for spiritual leaders and congregations, our QD of the hour states, according to research by Lisa Miller, the founder of Spirituality, Mind, Body Institute, people who say that spirituality is very important to them are 80% less likely to become addicted to drugs and alcohol, 60% less likely to experience a major depressive disorder, and 70% less likely to make risky health decisions. And our source comes from Psychology Today. So what's you all's thoughts on the QD of the hour?
I think that it answers the what people want to know.
Yeah, right.
I think it answers it pretty accurately. The question was, why are religion and spirituality important in our healthcare? I think that's it right now. The numbers speak for themselves. 80% less likely to addiction, 70% less likely to make risky health decisions. I think it's all right. Yeah.
And I also think that it plays a factor in how we heal. I know I talked about coping mechanisms, but having that capacity of religion or spirituality gives you a space or an opportunity to look forward to everything not being black and white. Okay, I've been diagnosed with this very severe health condition, and the doctors say the outcome is this and my prognosis is this, but having belief in something outside of black and white or what the doctors say, having that more spiritual mentality gives you that capacity to leave room for miracles to happen, or leave room for the impossible to happen, leave room for something that has not happened before to happen now. So I feel like our healing process, just having a belief and a sense of faith helps that healing process as well.
I think it gives us a sense of community. I really feel like sometimes people can isolate, which then, in my opinion, makes things can make things worse at times. But having a particular belief in whether that's religion or spirituality, it can make you feel seen, heard, and understood in the community. And we heal as people. We heal in community. We don't heal in isolation.
Beautiful.
I think that's so very true. I mean, I just wanted to add, words are important. And so when you say community, when you think about that word community, you see unity, right? You are with unity. And I love the point that you made that it lowers your depression. Because in isolation, that breeds depression, right? When you're by yourself, when you're alone, when you have those thoughts that are going through your head, sometimes more negative than positive thoughts, it is important that you have others around you who can sow into you and speak life into you, right? And sometimes that may be them actually saying the words, but sometimes it's just the quietness that you feel by having their presence there with you. Sometimes it's just feeling like you're acknowledged in a way that you may not have felt before, because when you're by yourself and you're in isolation, it's just you. Right. And it's just, what are you telling yourself? It's those moments when you've gone back 15, 20 years and remembering the worst thing that has ever said to you, or the worst thing that you have ever said to yourself. And you're reminiscing and thinking about that, or ruminating. That's one of those mental health words, ruminating about this, to the point where you're lowering your self-esteem. Remember, that starts with self. And then you're not only are you feeling bad about yourself, but how do you come back out of that if there's no one there to help sow into you, or if you don't have that spirituality or that religion to depend on? So
that
like
space,
that
opportunity.
I was gonna say, and I think that I think that having that community, and you kind of touched on it as well, gives you a sense of building your resilience. I would say, which in my opinion is an important aspect of us thinking about mental health is building and having that resilience. But I like for us to kind of define that kind of resilience, because it's a word that I see that's thrown around a good bit. So how would you all kind of define that resilience in the context of what we're talking about today, and talking about these mental health strategies for spiritual leaders and congregations?
Do you want to go?
You can start.
Okay. Just when you think about resilience, as a people, it is that being able to pick yourself up and recover from whatever has happened in your life. But I also wanted to talk about, there are what's believed to be 7 C's of resilience that was brought out by Dr. Kenneth Ginsburg. He's a pediatrician that was talking about resilience in children. But when you think of the 7 C's, it falls right along with what we're thinking, or what we typically say. Having competence, the ability to effectively handle situations and tasks, which is developed through experience and skill acquisition. Having confidence, a strong belief in one's abilities and the capacity to face challenges. Connection, which is what we've been talking about. Having strong supportive relationships with family, with friends, and with community. There's that word again. Fostering a sense of belonging. Having character, developing a strong sense of right and wrong and integrity with an ethical behavior. Contribution, making a positive impact on the lives of others and the world, fostering a sense of purpose. So what are you doing to give back? Coping, developing healthy strategies for managing stress and adversity. And then control, which is that understanding that individuals have agency, or that ability to act independently and make choices, and you can actually influence the outcomes of your life. Wow. So the 7 C's of resilience.
Write it down.
Right.
I wrote them down just now.
Well, I feel like I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I actually want to do some more research on that, on Dr. Kenneth's his concept on resilience, because it's intriguing to me. And when you asked the question, Josh, I couldn't help but to relate it back to the topic of spiritual leaders in the church congregation, because I feel like there's this concept of people that go to church are very religious people, that they have this resilience like none other. And although that can be true, and I just want to I want to focus on leaders, spiritual leaders. I feel like as individuals, we often expect spiritual leaders to have it all together in all aspects of their life. We expect their marriages to be good. We expect them to be great parents. We expect them to, have stability and, maybe have a nice home. We expect them to have good mental health. And these expectations are sometimes not realistic, because we forget that even though they're a spiritual leader, they are also human too. So I appreciate that we have you on the show today to bridge that gap between mental health and spiritual leaders. But I feel like we just have that connotation that just because someone is a leader, that automatically that their resilience is automatically higher than others, or should be higher than others.
Yeah. I'm with you. And so one thing that you mentioned, it made me think about one thing that you both mentioned. We were talking about community and talking about resilience, and I'm just throwing it out there because it came to mind. But one thing that I see in the church that kind of helps to build that resilience and community is when testimony service. When people, and I thought of this because you were talking about how in church a lot of times you can find some really resilient people.
Yeah.
A lot of times you hear them testimonies, man, where people done been through so much, but then at the end they're telling you about how resilient that they've been able to stay with the help of the Lord through through what they've gone through. So when we think about resilience, I think that's one way that the church kind of builds that into the community of the church. Is through like that testimony, and it's something that a lot of times happens every service, every Sunday service. They'll have it, that testimony, and you get a chance. If you're a young child and you brought up in the church and you're hearing your
Right.
your leader or another individual talk about what they've gone through, and you start feeling like it builds your resilience. Man, I can get through it too. I ain't talking through too low, am I, Tim?
You started to. I wasn't gonna say nothing, but you brought it up.
Josh
likes to.
It's a running joke.
He likes to
Dr.
lower his tone, his voice,
and I like
and the volume. And like once he really get into something, you know he into it because he'll just start talking low and soft. So that's the joke. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard a couple of things that were mentioned. The resilience of people in the church. So I'm a minister, and I told y'all I'm Baptist, so y'all know I'm gonna bring the word with y'all. And so
that's what I'm talking about. Give it to us. I'm ready.
I think that is where a lot of the resilience start, right? Because we are always taught, it's embedded in us that you have to read your scripture, know the word, embedded in your spirit. So when nothing else is there, you know that God is there and the word is there along with you. Hebrews 1:11-1. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen, right? So when we know that we have that faith, right? That's what everything that we believe about church is based upon, having faith. Right, you have to have faith and you have to have hope. But then Romans 5:2-5 tells us, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings. We glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. When we have constantly been told that you're going to go through some stuff, there's not a person here on this earth that has not gone through something. And if you haven't, you will. So get prepared for it. But that tribulation and those things that you go through, that suffering, it's building something within you. It's building your character. It's helping you to believe in something that you couldn't have believed in otherwise. Because if you hadn't gone through that, how would you know you can come out on the other side? Right?
Yeah.
So when we can look at Romans and it tells us that perseverance is helping us to build the hope and the faith that we need to go about our everyday. That's why during this time of tribulation, everybody's worried about the political scene. What are we busy doing? Trying to learn boots on the ground. And if you ain't learned it, you need to learn. That's a new dance out, Terrence. You look a little, I'm sorry, that's
I know it
Terrence
is.
over here.
I just don't got a fan right now.
On the ground. We are busy learning the line dances because that is I'll teach it to you. It's a country line dance. And it's not just boots on the ground. There are many others that we're busy trying to learn right now because we have found our ways of coping in the midst of struggle. Because what do we know? We know we're going to struggle, right? It goes back to our ancestors. There's going to be some struggle in everything, whether we're talking about enslavement, civil rights movement, or whatever. We know that there's struggle. But as a people, one of the greatest things about us is we use humor. We use laughter, dancing, things of that nature to bring us joy. And those are also the things that help us with our resiliency. We can pray. Yes, we pray. We praise and worship. We do all those things. We line dance, but that's a part of the community. When you're in church and the drums start playing, right? you know somebody's about to get up and shout and dance like they've never danced before. They dance for the Lord. Am I correct?
You are right.
So don't look down on somebody because they say they're trying to learn the latest line dance. They may not know how to praise and they may not know how to shout, but they know those steps to boots on the ground, and so that's what they're going to do. That's their coping, right? So all of that is a part of the resilience. Now, going back to the statement that Hannah made, that leaders in ministry are supposed to have it all together. They're supposed to have the best of everything, the best marriage, the best children, the best mental health. They're human. They're very much human. So just like anyone else that's suffering, those tribulations that we read about, it happens to ministry leaders too.
Yes.
Depression happens to ministry leaders, whether you're talking about the pastors or the ministers or the deacons, the deaconesses. There is not a person on this earth, I don't care what your race is, I don't care what your socioeconomic status is, that is immune to having mental health challenges.
Right.
It affects us all, and it may affect us in different ways, but it doesn't make you immune because of your job title or because you're standing in that pulpit or because you're leading a congregation. I would say the stress is heightened, right? Because you have all these people that's dependent upon you.
Right.
You have all these people that's thinking that you have it together. And so who do you go talk to? Because you never want to show the vulnerability or the weakness that you don't have it together or you don't have the answers. But I personally think the best people are the ones that show those vulnerabilities to say, you know what? When asked the question, who needs a mental health provider? And I say things like everybody. Everybody. And why is that important? Because everyone needs that trusted professional, that trusted person that they can go talk to where there's no bias, they're not being judged. There's no thought of who gonna run tell this. Am I gonna hear about it next Sunday? Is sister so-and-so gonna be able to tell brother so-and-so? And all these things that may go through your head when you're sharing things with a friend or a loved one. It's so very important that we do not let people think that whatever your job title may be, whatever it is you may be doing, that it makes you immune to what is fundamentally sound to our bodies. Remember, we are people that are made up of different facets. That's the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the financial, the social. Did I miss one? And
All
so,
of
yeah,
everything.
we, and so
You on a roll.
because
Somebody
we are made up of all of these different facets, it's so very important for us to know, just like high blood pressure may happen to you, just like cancer may happen to you, just like things may happen to you, it doesn't make you immune from being depressed. It doesn't make you, because those are things that's happening. That's a chemical imbalance within the brain. Does the environment play a factor? Yes. Do other things play factors? Yes. But we have to understand that mental health is no different than physical health. Right. Mental health in itself may actually show itself, or the signs and symptoms may come out looking like physical symptoms. You ain't going to call into work and say, oh, I'm depressed today. What you're going to say is, I'm sorry, my head hurt. I'm sorry, my back hurt. I'm sorry, I can't get, you know, you don't ever call in and say, oh, my anxiety is off the charts today. I don't think I'll be able to come in. No, you say something physiologically is wrong, which is maybe the presentation that mental health issue is having, and that's how it comes out.
Wow.
Sorry. Like,
Please don't
apologize. Don't apologize. I told you on the road.
That's why you're here, first of all.
Right. And
You on the road.
And I actually, you said a lot, and I was just here listening to everything you said. It had so much substance behind it, because one thing I had wrote down in my notes is that I draw closer to those leaders or those individuals that are just vulnerable and can be honest with their crowds. You know, hey, you know, I'm grieving right now, but I'm still going to do my job. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, my wife is sick, but I'm still going to give the word. Right. I gravitate towards those individuals that are just able to still do their job, but remind people that they're still human too. So I appreciate everything you said just now, and I feel like what I learned out of that is that honesty is so important.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, honesty is so important. Being honest with ourselves, being honest with our community, and being honest to those individuals that can support us and can help us.
That's right. I mean, I have talked to people many times about understanding your pastor, your deacon, your deaconess is those people that you call when you're going through crisis. They may be going through things themselves.
Right.
So sometimes we have to step back for a second and realize that, we have humans that we're speaking with. We're not speaking to someone who is just automated, that's taking in the information right and going to spit out something to us. So that's why I always encourage, especially if you're in leadership, whether that's at a church or on your job or whatever, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So it's important that you're taking care of yourself to set that example for those that are around you, right? When you're standing in that pulpit or you have that place of position, whatever it may be, you can be a professor in a college. Remember that there are those that are always watching you. They're learning from you. And you may not even feel like the eyes are on you, but it may be something as simple as, I noticed that they eat with their right hand, and they, something simple that you don't even think about. And then you've made a mark on someone else. Just because this is who you are and this is what you do. So when you are in that position, whatever it may be, make sure that you are taking care of all of those facets of yourself so that you can always put forth the best version of you. And being that I've been given this opportunity, I have to make sure that I say, as a people, we have always learned that, and maybe not y'all, maybe it's just where I'm from, but I have always learned that we have to be the top in everything that we do, right? We have to be the most educated. We have to be the most well-spoken because eyes are always on it. Now, others may be able to get away with things that are not to that level, but we just can't get away with certain things. That creates stress. We have learned to what's called code switching, which is a form of resilience, right? We walk into offices, we walk into spaces, and we put on those masks, right? We wear the mask.
Yeah.
Paul Lawrence Dunbar said it. We're still wearing those masks to not only protect ourselves, but to be able to provide I say a cape to allow us to be able to function in society, to be able to function in these spaces that may not have been quite designed for us, right? We have to wear our hair a special way. We have to dress a certain way. You got to be articulate. Don't need a touch up on them braids or don't need that fresh haircut, whatever it may be, because we always have to put our best foot forward. And as a people, that in itself causes anxiety. That in itself causes stress. And what does that stress do? It affects our bodies, right? It affects that cortisol level. It affects those things that lead to high blood pressure, leads to diabetes. So I done said a whole mouthful, but listen, what I'm trying to say is when we're putting on that mask and we're putting on that cape, give yourself permission to be you. Give yourself permission to stop always thinking that you have to be perfect. And we as adults need to stop trying to instill this in our children, because some of the things that we say, because we've had to utilize these mechanisms to make it to a certain point, our children are internalizing it, and it's creating anxiety and stress in our young people. And they're taking this to school, they're taking it to other places, and that brings about trauma.
Yes.
Trauma, right? So I just needed to say that. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you said it.
Me too. Me too. I'm very glad you said that.
Listen, you got something?
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, shoot, I don't want to shut you out. I was gonna say we running low on our time, so but no, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what you said. Is that's something I can even relate to, that because that's something I experienced as a child growing up in not only a military household, but also my father was a minister. So it's like I felt like I got it hard both ways. I had stressors. I was under stress when it came to performing well in church and, growing up to be a holy young woman. And I also experienced that pressure when it came to life and my academics of being very disciplined, being very successful in life. And so it's like, well, where do I go for an escape? And when I tried to find escapes, it wasn't in a healthy way. And that created stress, that created anxiety, that ultimately created depression that I didn't even know I was going through because I was so used to performing in a perfect space that I forgot to just be Hannah. I forgot
you
to
were
just
never
be
given
Hannah.
permission to just
Yeah.
be Hannah because you were the preacher's kid and everybody, all of the eyes were on you
Yeah.
and you had to have, and so, it's like that with preacher's kids in the military. I often say, well, it was a meme, I think, that was on social media talking about those who were in those gifted and talented classes as young adults. Those are the people that have OCD and things of that nature now, because that we were expected to be. I was one of those kids, so I can say this. We were expected to be perfect. You're supposed to make the highest grade on everything, and if it didn't, it was reflection on you, your family, your ancestors, and everybody. I include that in my book. I mean, coming from a little town here in South Carolina, I walked with the thought of everything that I did, whether it was choosing the right college and choosing the correct career. Not only did I have the pressure of being me, but I had the pressure of my entire town was expecting me to make it. Not just the town, but every last black person I ever met. And all of my ancestors. I even share in when I'm speaking in the book. When I'm speaking about, I walked on the campus of Virginia Union University, first time that I had ever attended a predominantly black HBCU, let me just say it, an HBCU. And I felt like all the ancestors said, welcome home, my child. Because what had I done? I had gone to private, predominantly white institutions all my life, and I had molded myself into this being, right? And then I walk on the campus of Virginia Union in my flip-flops.
Hey,
and
girl.
that's right. Being able to ski-wee and throw up the pinky as I wish.
Ma'am.
And everybody understood everybody understood the language. And so it is so important. We always talk about wanting to be the first and setting goals and all these other things. But one thing that I've learned being a mother now that's so very important to me, it's great to find academic institutions or places where the name is supposed to be great. But instead of looking for those places where it's great because of the name or something of that nature, find the right academic institution, the right church, whatever it may be, that's right for you, that's right for that child. Because the way they learn, the way they process, I know for me, speaking with my daughter, I know for her, she needs to feel nurtured. She needs to feel celebrated, not just tolerated. And if she doesn't, she's going to completely shut down. And I say, you go, baby, because that means I need to advocate and I need to remove her out of that space and put her in a space where I know she will receive that. Because she needs it and her mother needs it, right? I don't want to ever be in a space where I'm just tolerated because I'm Reverend Dr. Makisha Bates. Those things are great. Those accolades are great. But inside of me is this multifaceted person. You may get Reverend Dr. Makisha Bates, but there's also Makisha, there's also Keisha, and depending on the day, you may get Kiki. And Kiki will wrap it up for you because you have to understand we are multifaceted people.
Yes.
That are able to code switch, that are able to put on those masks. And we can say the right words. I can speak in front of the President of the United States because I've been trained for that. But I also know that if you take me to any other place, I will be able to be resilient, cope, and I will be able to take care of myself.
Love it.
And so when we're talking about our resiliency, when we're talking about the church, understand the church is made up of people. It's not the building, right? It's the people inside of the building. So who are you encouraging to come along and be a side of you? Your community, right? Who are you encouraging to actually have the faith, right? Who are you encouraging to have that hope at the end of the day? So I'm going to stop talking now.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
Word.
We're unfortunately nearing the end of our episode.
Very unfortunate.
I think it'd be great if we kept on going, but I do want you, before we close out, Dr. Bates, I do want you to tell us just a little bit about your book and also where we can find you, whether on social media or, what have you.
Sure. So I mentioned the book. It's entitled "Being Black in America," and
It's right here, right?
yes, it's right there in the forefront. My chapters is on race, religion, and resiliency, and I think that is so very important because as a race of people, as I've mentioned before, we have had to be resilient. But religion plays a big role in our lives, whether we're in church or it was our grandparents that were in church, but we all know that we had somebody praying for us to get where we are.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have somebody, then we're praying right now for someone
on.
else that's in our lives. So if you ever want to get in contact with me, I am the owner of Gift of Dreams Wellness and Consulting. I can be found at www.giftofdreams with an S on the end.org. That is my website. You can find me. I'm on Instagram at gift_of_dreams. You can also reach out to me at Dr. Bates at giftofdreams.org. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, you'd want me to come and further these conversations. I would love to. What I'm very passionate about right now is taking mental health into predominantly Black churches, because we know that's where our people are.
Yes.
And if we want them to get the resources they need, then it's breaking down the stigma, and it is showing them, even though less than 5% of all mental health professionals are African American, there are some that are in your community that will meet you where you are.
Yes.
Awesome.
So are you open to going to churches and having those conversations? Is that something that you're interested in doing in the near future? Okay.
Yes, going anywhere and having those conversations. I don't have to be in a church. What did I tell you? Churches is the people. It's wherever the people are. So going into churches, yes, and working with those churches to build up their mental health ministry, because it's so very needed. Yes. But also, speaking with sororities, I have invitations to go to events and be the keynote speaker, and I take advantage of those opportunities. I do trainings. I am currently the president of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention South Carolina chapter. So there are trainings specifically for African American communities in which we're helping them with suicide prevention. We're helping with mental health disorders. So those are just some of the things that I do in my free time.
Let's
Wow.
go.
Well, can we just give her a round of applause?
Thank you.
You deserve it and so much more for all of the work
Thank
you have
you so
done,
much.
not just for the community, but for our community. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
So thank you, as we said, for being with us today, Dr. Bates. And thank you all for tuning in today to Speaking with Gravity. It's been another great episode. Remember that building resilience is crucial for both ministry leaders and congregations to thrive in the face of challenges. I think that we've seen that today. We encourage you to reflect on the strategies that we did discuss today and implement them in your own communities. So important. If you enjoyed this episode, of course, please like, subscribe, comment for us. You can find us at Speaking with Gravity on social medias. And until then, have a great time.
See you next time, and please share this with your church members too.
Yeah, come back and see us.
Thank you.